In a good or successful color photograph, the picture's definition or meaning will somehow arise through the use of color.
Photographs have always been convincing lies.
Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast.
I cursed us.
I really hope that stays. I hope we hear that on the final recording. Welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward. And our dog Oxley upstairs.
Oxley. Thank you, Oxley. That could not have been timed better. Oh my God. I am not cutting that out for anybody who's listening. You're going to hear it. It was great.
We were just talking before the show about, how lucky we have out there. I didn't expect to be any noise, and I did happen to mention the dog.
Yeah, now we've got anointed by Oxley.
Oxley, the blue healer. Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he wants to be famous. Anyway, welcome to episode 235 for the middle of
the end.
The end of July. End of July. And area code 235 is what is
the area code for the state of Missouri, specifically the eastern part of the state, excluding metropolitan
St. Louis. Sorry, St. Louis.
They get their own.
We'll get you next time.
Yeah,
they get their own. Yeah. So 235. Well, we've passed the threshold of the half year mark. I mean, we did that in June, but now it feels like we're on the other half of the year. Although it's still summer and it's still. It reached 107 in the heat index today here in Lincoln. Nice, right? Yeah. Talk about stupid hot. I mean, you know what I'm learning? I'm learning that the corn sweats, and corn sweats creates humidity here. Did you know that?
Well, I suppose corn is it's related to grass, and it's the widest grass blade you can have is in a corn plant. So I could you're going into that plant and moisture coming out.
I did not know that, although I do feel it, but it doesn't smell like corn around here.
I've
seen a lot of cornfields.
Yeah.
I think corn was invented here. No, I'm sorry. It was not invented here.
I think it was originally cultivated in Central America. Yeah.
Central America. Yeah. I learned that in but it feels like this whole state is one big cornfield when you leave the confines of the city.
You got to be famous for something.
Did I ever tell you that when I was a kid, actually, first of all, let me go back for a second. When we're driving around, I'm saying to everybody, show me cornfields. I'm like, why? I said, I love cornfields. I don't know why. And then I told them the story when I was a kid that I grew a corn plant on my fire escape.
Okay.
And you weren't supposed to, fire escapes are fire escapes. You're not supposed to put anything on them.
Yeah.
My mom always put plants on the fire escape, and she was always yelled at by the superintendent and by the landlord. And of course, obviously it's a fire thing because my mom said, if there's a fire, I'm kicking this stuff off the, it's like, we're getting out. I'm just kicking it down. But one time I planted a corn stalk or maybe a few, and they actually produced little teeny tiny corns. They weren't edible.
No,
but because ever since I was a kid, I loved corn. Anyway,
now you got all you can stand. It's all good.
All I can stand. I've only actually had one meal of corn here. Our neighbor gave us like 10 or 12 ears of it, and it was heaven. It was so good, with the butter and salt, and then eating. Do you eat like a typewriter, or do you eat like I'm
a typewriter. It's completely clean when I'm done with it. No, I'm
typewriter. I'm a typewriter.
Yeah. And it's like there isn't. It looks like construction material. It's a dowel. It looks like a piece of wood. It's ready to use in something else. It's been through the lathe.
Yeah.
It's you can use it for something else now. Yeah.
Where's your corn grown in Canada?
South of here, there's corn. Actually, south here and east warm. We have a very short growing season compared to where you are, so we only get one crop of corn off in a year. as opposed to 2 or possibly more the further south you go in USA. Yeah, and in where I grew up, when we lived on the farm, I was responsible for growing 10 acres of sweet corn for sale and market.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So, and this is the late 70s, early 80s. So the genetics of corn has changed so much. I don't even really know anything about growing corn, but I was the corn person in my family, and
Huh. 10 acres?
we get it. Yeah, 10 acres.
That's a lot.
Yeah, enough
Wow.
to go out. I would go out by hand with called a stirrup hoe, and it's like a blue steel hoe with a sharp blade on it, and I would weed the garden twice a week, often in my bare feet because we didn't have any gravel in our soil. It was kind of nice to walk up and down the rows and pick the weed up and then flip it into the hedge. It was
wow.
It was fun. It was a thing to do, and it was so
learned
nice and
something
warm.
new.
It was nice and warm.
Yeah.
The temperatures would be in the 80s and 90s, and yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it a lot.
I know that here they hire a whole bunch they have like this summer hiring for teens to do something in the cornfields. I can't remember what it is, but like they go and do something for extremely long periods of time and get paid, a decent wage, but it's just for this like one season. And it's like, like a half summer job or something like that. I'm still learning and figuring out what all the corn based things here are. And I know that a lot of the corn I'm seeing here is not, is for,
it's for feed or commercial group.
Yeah.
Commercial corn.
But it's kind of nice to have the corn wherever it came from in the state that has a team called the Corn Huskers. I mean, the Huskers, so yeah. So it's very satisfying. I feel like I'm eating like from the land. I don't know. Actually, we're for the first time we have a garden in the back, and not as extensive as yours, but we got tomatoes and cucumbers. Cucumbers the size of, I can't even describe them.
Oh, cool.
Giant cucumbers and peppers, and having had a salad made from stuff that was just pulled out of the ground, just 50 feet away, was something very satisfying. So a lot different than city living, obviously.
Yeah.
Even though this is a city. I mean, I should say this is a different city living,
Yeah.
So anyway, how are you?
I'm doing well. I just got in last night from a weekend from my hometown in Saskatchewan, coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
So visiting with my mom and my two, helping clean up around my mother's home, and had the opportunity to go to a dirt racetrack, which has been there for many, many years, but I hadn't been there for a long, long time. So I went there, camera in tow.
Racetrack.
Dirt track, yeah, dirt tracking. Yeah, speaking of Missouri and Nebraska, where they have lots of dirt tracks, so I went to my hometown dirt track and didn't recognize anybody. I mean, I've haven't lived there in over 40 years, so I knew some of the names, but it was fun to see, and it was noisy and fun. And my sisters had never been to.
Explain what a dirt track is for those of us.
It's
who
an oval that's like this, kind of like made like a bowl, and it's got like the curves kind of lean up. There's an angle to them, so
it's
the cars. Yeah, it's bowl shaped. It's 3/8 of a mile in in an oval, and the cars come in. They have stock cars. They look like old, like 80s Camaros and Mustangs, and even older, and they put engines in them and take the exhaust off them, so they make this really noisy roaring sound, and they go around in circles and create a lot of dust, and there's 10-lap races, finishes first, and all of that mayhem wins the heat, and so on. And so yeah, it was a sanctioned race by the Saskatchewan Dirt Track Racing Association. I think it was Saskatchewan Dirt Racing Association, I think it is. So there are people from up to miles away come and race in these things. And so some of the races had 12 cars, and that's a lot for a tiny oval like that. So it was fun to watch. You're doing Daytona, and now you're doing dirt tracks. What's next? A super speedway in late January, which is 2.5 miles, and down to 3/8 of a mile dirt from my hometown.
Right. You did a speedway race too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so you've done now 3 years? How many races have you done in the past year?
No, this has only been my second.
Car races.
only my
Oh,
second
the
one.
second one. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But I think what I'll do next time, because I didn't know that I saw signs around town that there was a race on the race weekend. Next time I'm going to get permission so that I can go inside the track and do whatever. And because it's very loose there. And I mean, I get permission to do something. I had the aspect of it, and I'll just go in. And I did ask for portraits and stuff, and people were quite busy. The race weekends are pretty packed, and the drivers are also the mechanics, and the whole family's involved. They're like little kids with little, ear defenders on and stuff. That was a lot of things. Start them young.
Yeah.
I did take some pictures of the action, which I'm behind page wire fencing, and I didn't really have a feeling for where I should be and how I should set up. I mean, I got a few pictures, and I tried using that. I got a new flash too, which we should talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get a good, how do I put it? I wasn't really much of a photographer at that event. I would just want to kind of be there and sit and enjoy it. But I think I got a few pictures. Yeah, I think reasonable. There's one family that I think they go all over the province, and I got a picture of them watching the brother-in-law or the brother racing in one of the modified races, and the whole family's up on a truck and they're watching the action. It was kind of cute. So got a picture of them.
Well, that's cool.
But yeah. So I turned the camera back to the humans as well as some of the cars. So yeah.
Yeah.
That was
I don't think I haven't photographed a race. I don't think ever. I'm trying to think. Not in a systematic way, like photographed brought equipment or something like that. But now that you say that there's dirt tracks in Nebraska, I'll have to go seek them out. There's a rodeo happening sometime soon, which I might be going to, which makes me think of, like, now I'm getting into your territory.
Hey, I'm all for it. I want to see what you can do.
I would be really curious what I could do too. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, what was I going to say? Yeah, I've been walking around, not a lot. I'm still sort of cooped up in the house a little bit. That's just my own doing. I think I really need to figure out sort of a systematic way of exploring. Although I have like gone around and done some like grain elevators, but they're close by. They're like, like a mile or two away. So I really haven't made any plans to go and like drive someplace. But I'm hearing about some towns, some old kind of places to go and check out. So you must have read I hear who's coming down. I hear him.
Yeah, he never comes to the basement. He must be. Everyone must have left the house, so he's just coming to visit, I think. So anyway,
our cats won't be coming as I close the door, but won't have Opie coming in. But anyway, sorry, I'm babbling here, but
no, that's right.
We recently put up a couple of Substack posts, and yours was about
Japan. My trip to Japan. Yeah,
Japan, and I put up one recently about what it means to be walking around and bringing my sensibilities from the East Coast to here, and trying to figure out what I want to photograph while I'm here. And sort of a way to say that, like, I'm still not sure what to do. I mean, like, I'd love to go to these old towns and see things. And this will somehow connect to what we're going to be talking about in the main part of the show. But like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I, what voice am I bringing here? Like, I'm sure I could do street photography and stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure where to go yet, like physically, and what I want to do. I mean, maybe there are things to get out of my system, but I've been walking around a lot with the Fuji X-Half camera, which I probably mentioned. I think I mentioned in the last show, but I'm finding that I'm taking that camera and I'm sticking it in my pocket, especially in my shorts, because shorts like cargo shorts, so it's easy to stick that camera in a pocket.
In 100-degree heat.
In 100-degree heat, and I'm using it a lot. Like, I've got either a 128 or 256 gigabyte card in there, and like the numbers never go down from 9999. Okay, so it's like, because it only shoots JPEG, right? So, but I've found that it's like a camera this size to have, and I wouldn't quite call it a point and shoot, actually, I don't know what we'd call this camera. It's sort of fits in this weird zone. It's an expensive toy. I will
Mhm.
tell you that. That being said, it's a lot of fun. It's a
Mm.
lot of fun to carry around the streets. I was walking around Lincoln with it. Actually, I taught my first class last week. Yeah, last Wednesday. We're recording on Monday. So last Wednesday, we had a class of 4-H teenagers
Oh
from the
yeah.
4-H club
Yeah.
and a couple of parents and Angie and me. And I retooled the whole class for these teens. But before that, when I was scoping out the space that I was going to be doing the class in, I walked around the neighborhood with the X-Half camera,
Mm.
and I decided to record things that I would put into the slideshow to show the kids. So I was doing like reflections and man in nature, so like weeds coming out of the sidewalk and whatever I could find that I thought would fit, my what I was going to teach them. But the pictures I took with this little X-Half camera, I was kind of blown away by it. I mean, I did a little processing on them.
Yeah.
It's got the film
And
simulations
it
built
guesses
into it, but I
exposure
did
pretty well. I mean, you don't have to.
it does a pretty good job. I mean, because it's JPEG, so it doesn't have any dynamic range
Right.
settings
That's
on
what
it.
I'm
And so
concerned about. That's why, one of the reasons why I've been shooting raw all these years was, because I'm known to goof on exposure from time to time.
yeah, it's not I wouldn't call it it's going to make well, actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm going to reserve my judgment because
Okay.
the pictures that I made, I actually liked.
Mm.
I just walked around and again, I processed some in black and white. I added some presets to them to get to jazz them up a little, and they were very workable files.
Mm.
And the pictures came out quite nice. And
Mm.
so it's making me not rethink this, but like one of the reasons when I remember buying a Fuji camera was so that I wouldn't have to carry around my Nikon DSLR overboard, like the
Right.
Fuji X, what is it, the
20.
X20,
Those are 12
that little camera.
megapixel. So the X-Half is also 12 megapixel, is it not?
No, it's a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
It's, I think, 16 or
Okay,
18.
that's fine. Yeah.
But it fits that, it is kind of fits that same role a little bit, although the X20 was a more capable camera, I think, because it could shoot
Yeah.
raw and it
Mhm.
didn't have this I don't think it had film simulations, but
It did have it had
did.
different film
Did it?
modes, whatever. It had
Oh,
and it had
film
black
modes,
and
yeah,
white with
but-
filters. They didn't name them after
Yeah.
film emulsions.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I say it kind of fits the same thing. The X20 had, a little zoom lens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it had a zoom lens.
It did. It had that.
but anyway.
It had the practical zoom lens. You turned
Yeah,
the
yeah.
lens barrel on to turn the power on. It was a fantastic camera. I love that.
I bet the sensors were about the same size though. But anyway,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that having that kind of camera in your pocket, or I should say having that kind of camera in my pocket, means that I'm more likely to just pull it out and just take a picture of anything I want, right?
Mhm.
Anytime I want. And it's a lot different than using a phone. I still use my phone a lot, but there is some, the ergonomics of it, the idea of it, for some reason about the idea of using a camera to
Mhm.
take a picture. I actually do like that it's defaulted to a vertical format.
Mm.
That something feels nice about that because
Mm.
if I'm photographing buildings or something, I'm automatically always turning it into vertical. So I don't know. It's fitting a bill. It's helping me in a way like scout, like give me ideas
Mm.
for things that I might want to do later on, maybe with my medium format camera or something like that. Like what are the possibilities of that I can do here that bring my own sensibilities or whatever I want to photograph here. So I'm not advocating. I think it's an expensive toy.
Yeah.
It feels plasticky. It's really small. I mean, you could swallow it if you put your mind to it. And it's a bit of an indulgence. Yes, I indulged myself in buying this as sort of like a gift that I moved and stuff like that. So I don't have the recommendation for it. I almost think that any of the smaller, like the XM5 or the XE5,
Yeah.
like that's a little bit bigger, but I think those are great cameras and those would be more capable. But there is a fun factor.
Okay.
And when that I think plays into like part of the charm of this. I don't know if they're going to sell a lot. I have no idea, but I like it. And, I feel like if I go on a bike ride, I stick it in my pocket. I'm not too worried about it, so it's not like having something slung around my back and stuff. So
Right.
anyway.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, yeah, the pictures I'm taking and like what I'm trying to sort of formulate in my mind. And this kind of maybe like a segue into what we're going to be talking about tonight
Sure.
because of who we're talking about and where he photographs.
Tonight we were talking about the American art photographer Joel Sternfeld. He's an interesting dude. He really is. We've in our research for the show, we've watched lectures or interviews, whatever you want to call them. He speaks very eloquently about how he works and the way his work is woven into his life, and the
Oh.
issues that he has in life and his family. They all kind of weave
Mhm.
together. His emotional state help feed his art. When he goes back, we could have some examples, but there's a picture that he
Yeah.
took of apartment buildings along Rockaway, and how the picture didn't mean anything to him when he first shot it, and then things happened in his life that depressed him or made him feel, and also not just him, but he had this perspective about America, that it was in a general malaise, and that he went back and he looked at this picture and he thought it was a perfect encapsulation of those things. And so it ended up being one of the standout images. And it's just
It's
one
interesting.
example of one picture and the value that it has in his work.
Yeah. I spent some time reading about him. First of all, I'm embarrassed in some way that I don't his name was not on my, you know, my radar as much. And what's funny about that is that, he's sort of contemporary to us, and he's been credited as sort of bringing the idea of color photography to art in the same way that Stephen Shore and William Eggleston is.
Hmm.
But I've seen one or two of his pictures, especially there's a famous one of a firefighter buying pumpkins
Right.
in a field, and in the background there's a building burning.
Yeah.
And like I know that picture, but I was never really good. I'm generally not good with names and pictures and like who they are, like until I start doing like a deep dive like we're doing today. So
Hmm.
I didn't really know his work. And then you and I I think I found somebody on Facebook in one of the photo groups posted like a happy birthday to him, and they post like, 30 pictures of him. And I went through it and I was like, wow, right?
Hmm.
Here's someone who's, probably from the East Coast as well. I don't know where he's originally from, but I think he's currently living in Brooklyn, probably not too far from where I used to live. And he's been working since the 60s and 70s and 80s, traveling around the United States and bringing his sensibilities to these places that he's visited. But when I was looking at the pictures, there was some photographs that he did turned into a book called, let me just get it in front of me, sorry, Nag's Head, Nags Head, right? Nag's Head. And I looked at some of those pictures and I thought Nag's Head was someplace in Cape Cod.
Mm.
So there's this book that he did in 1975. He went to Nag's Head, North Carolina, which is a beach town, and photographed. It was 1975, and he photographed from July to August. And it was this one little project that he was doing, and he had to leave early because of some personal stuff. But I'm looking at the picture. I ended up buying the book. I bought two books of him. The only two books that I could find that were available was Nag's Head and the High Line. He did a whole project of photographing the High Line in New York City before they turned it into a park. So I bought these two books because, of course, if I want to learn about a photographer, I end up buying the books.
Hmm. Of course.
And I blame
Well,
you,
me
of
too.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
come by it honestly.
Yeah, I know. I came on it, honestly. And I had not seen these pictures of Nag's Head. And of course, I didn't initially know that it was North Carolina. I just thought Nag's Head. Nag's Head sounds like it's from like Cape Cod or New England or something like that.
Hmm.
And as I'm flipping through the book and I'm not noticing the location, I'm thinking, where is this in Cape Cod? There's a lot of this that looks familiar. So 1975. So I was, hang
11.
on, in the summer of 75. Yeah. No, I was still 10 because my birthday's in November.
Okay.
So it was 10 and change.
Okay.
And I was in Provincetown because I would spend summers with my dad and my stepmom and my half brother in Provincetown. And I'm looking through these pictures thinking, is this a beach in Cape Cod or something like that? Like it just looked like a place that I had been. And as I further got into the book and realized that it was not New England, it was North Carolina, I was kind of blown away by it. So when I ended up looking at these pictures, I got this real intense memory flashback, even though these are places that I have not been.
Mm-hmm.
The place, the feel of the pictures, the light, the color is all kind of embedded in my memory as to what Cape Cod looked like, especially in that same year. So I got really intrigued by his work, and I'm glad we're talking about him now because I don't know how many people know about him or don't know about him, but he's worth spending time on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I know some of the Nag's Head work. I haven't gone through a book. I know there's some folks that go through and leaf through the photo books on YouTube to of what goes on and what the pictures are like. It's in Nag's Head, the pictures that I've seen, they're very relatable. It's like you are sitting there at the ice cream stand, that's there in the resort town, and there's this kind of, you could sense the human presence. You can, because they're taken with large format. I don't think we mentioned that, right? He was 8 by 10.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't
No, not
taking
that
these
one.
with large
Oh,
format.
he wasn't.
No, no. So
Oh.
to make a little side note here, he's known in his later work for photographing with 8 by 10 cameras. So here we go with the Stephen Shores and
Okay.
the Alex Salts of the world and stuff like that. But this is his last project that he shot on 35 millimeter.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, but you can see a lot. Well, I don't know how we can weave this into the stories of where he's gone further with it. But yeah, it was a project done in 35 millimeter. He's got a lot of flash work in it as well.
Mm.
But yeah, the when you say relatable, I mean, I'm biased, and again, the relatable part of it is like I'm looking at a picture of he's got a shot of an ice cream stand in, where people are sitting down outside and on picnic benches, and on the left side is the ice cream stand, and it looks just like an ice cream stand it looks exactly like an ice cream stand that I would go to in Provincetown. It was not a Dairy Queen. Can't remember what it was called, but it had the same kind of vibe. It was very similar. And so the relatableness, like for me, and again, that's coming from my youth too. So it's like I'm, 10 years old and I'm remembering this kind of stuff and I'm looking at these pictures. And so there is a lot of relations to it. Like there's like a shot with a Volkswagen Bug on one side parked and it's sort of cropped out. And then the right side is a porch and there's like a Heineken beer bottle sitting there. And it's like it's like the day after of some party, right? Someone left a thing there, or there's a picture inside of, oh, here it is. It's the screened in porch of a house, and there's what looks like a bed and someone's shoes and some glasses out there. And like that I totally relate to that in the sense of like you go into someone's house on a party and like everybody's crashing. And where do you crash in the summer? Well, certainly you crash on the, one place is on the open porch and stuff like that. So as not a body of work, as sort of memories for me, I'm looking at it and I'm very much relating it. But yeah, I'm just sort of throwing stuff into the mix here.
No, so if I could jump back into the lectures and conversation interviews that I saw with him in our research, he's very earnest and specific about the way he works. He's not telling other people what to do, and he's not saying his way is the best, but the way he talks about, his study of color combinations and other artwork and other visual work,
color theory,
and that he uses these he uses these ideas of a limited color palette in his own work. And for like, it's one thing to, and particularly in his later large format stuff, to be in the state of mind where you want to say these things about America that he wants to say, and be in the place that he is and find something that mates to that. Plus, color rules going on. It's not like he's a painter and he can put down whatever colors he wants. He finds these locations, these places, and these people that, when put together, have this, you could call it a muted palette. It's just a limited palette, I think, is a better, because there are bright colors. It's not, he doesn't, shy colors, but there is a, I don't know, soothing is too strong a word, but there's a very calming and unifying kind of gentle expression of color in his pictures, and they're not flat at all. They're vivid, not vivid in like a saturated way, but in a very realistic, lifelike way, particularly with his portraits and things.
Yeah. I mean, to read about his sort of progression from 35 millimeter to 8x10, and then from, this project in Nag's Head to going to do the book that he's known for, American Prospects.
Yeah.
Right. Which he got a Guggenheim grant to do. And so he's 20 something years old, traveling around the United States in a beat up, VW with an 8x10 camera, with only able to shoot 2 pictures a day,
two per day,
two sheet film, two sheets of film a day. But what's interesting about him is that he's one of you were right. Actually, when you said that, he's not telling other people what to do, which is, I don't know about his process himself. Like someone, in some way, he actually reminded me of you a little bit before you went to Japan.
He has much better hair.
He has much better hair. He's got crazy hair. If you go see the videos, I'll put the links in the show notes to the 2 talks, but he's got some crazy hair and he's got all of his hair. He's still, he's up there in age, and he still has his hair. But the way he reminded me of you, in the sense of the deliberateness about something, like to listen to him talk about his own photography and how he's going about looking for these color palettes. Now, first of all, it's kind of mind blowing for me.
Yeah, me too.
It's not something I can do. Right.
Me neither.
Right. Yeah. Although it makes me think of, like, maybe I should, or maybe we should think about our work in some way like he does. It's very interesting to, like, I paused for a minute and thought, like, what would I do if, like, here I am, perfect example is, like, here I am in a new situation in Nebraska, and, my issue is, it's not even an issue. It's just a thing, like, well, do I bring what I've been doing for years here, or do I actually try to do something different and deliberate? And what would that look like? And what if I went and did the Joel Sternfeld version of it? Like, what would that look like? Or would I just be, full of crap? Would it just be a lot of stuff? But I think it was really interesting. He spent a lot of time, like, figuring out the kind of film that he wanted to shoot, figuring out the kind of processing that he wanted to do to get this thing. And you talked about that decisive moment. No, it's not the right word, but that when he saw these buildings in Rockaway, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, Rockaway is in Brooklyn, or Queens, actually. Queens. Sorry. It's been a while since you can get there from Queens.
It's only your hometown. Sure
yeah. For people in Rockaway who are listening to me, sorry, forgive me for this, because I not always know where the borders are. Anyway, he photographs these apartment complexes, and I'm guessing when he saw the print made, I don't know if when he saw it, or he actually saw the actual physical structures before he photographed it.
Yeah.
But to have a moment like that, to be able to say, this is the color that I want, or this is the kind of thing I want. This is how I want the sky, the ground, and the subject divided. It seems like a lot of things came from that moment of looking at these rather ugly buildings, if one would call them that, but he saw them in a different way, and it set him on a different course. Okay. I always wonder what it would be like for you or me to like, would we ever have a moment like that? wherever you go, you see something, and suddenly you could be set on a trajectory that you weren't even aware of
Beyond
before
just,
that.
I mean, I look at that picture. It's not a picture that I would want to put in a zine, like, if it were my picture.
Right.
But the buildings, because it's taken from the beach, right? It's kind of like a foggy,
Yeah, it's on
hazy,
the
or
beach. Yeah, yeah.
wind blown, I don't know what, but
I think it's early morning because of the light.
and there's a graphic quality to the building, but it's not pretty. It is muted though. And then when you hear him talk about it, and you think, well, how could it not be? you know, it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it represents perfectly what it was he was trying to achieve. And the fact that he keeps all these balls in the air over the course he's doing this project, not seeing his finished work after it's shot like, anybody else would have been in the 60s and 70s. You do your best, you do your, take your 2 shots a day and put them in the wherever and send them off to the lab and look at them, months later. Pretty extraordinary. Particularly
Yeah.
for me, American Prospects, and that's the book. I don't have it, but I've seen many of the prints of them. And you did, thankfully, thank you for putting them in the show notes. Many of the images in the show notes. They have this openness and this feeling, America, but not Americana. It's like, this is what I see, and these are the colors that I see, and it's not a celebration of the country as it is a keen observation of things.
Mm-hmm,
And having
mm-hmm.
visited it, USA, Showbiz Land, you feel like you're there. If you want to have a feeling of what's like to be in the US, American Prospects is great because
Yeah.
it does transport you. You are there. You're standing on that block I don't know exactly where it is, but 3 people standing on this pavement is curving up and to the right, and there's trees on either side. Like, just you can almost smell what it's like to be there.
Yeah,
And
and
he does that.
he does a very good job with that, and the color. One of the things that I appreciate is how he spent so much energy trying to figure out his whole color palette, and that even translates to the subjects and the days that he shoots.
Mhm.
He's not shooting. If you look at his work, he tends to shoot on muted sunny days, or where the sun isn't so strong, or something. Not overcast days, just where the sun isn't is contrasty,
Yeah.
and whatever film stock he used, and in combination with the lens and the camera. And the lens always has a part of this process, because lenses have different kind of contrast and stuff like that. And so, but like, I got inspired by reading that, because I think again, I'm not going back to my Substack a couple of times ago, when I said, I'm walking around this area and I'm looking at pictures that I'm taking, and I'm not drawn to them until I got back and processed the pictures, and I
Mhm.
started finding the colors that uh, to me resonated with what I was photographing. And suddenly then I was drawn to subjects, knowing that the color that I'll end up turning them into
Mhm.
would have been like, I wouldn't have been drawn to those subjects necessarily. And I don't know why I feel like it's sort of a kinship with him in that way. But maybe that's just being that's what photographers do. Is like, we think about these things, or maybe we ought to think more about these things. And you know, of course, he's shooting 8x10 too. So at least when he's doing these series, and so it has to be a lot more deliberate.
Yeah.
If he's only got a budget for 2 pieces of film, at least initially, to go around, he's really thinking about those shots.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that, but I wonder if we could sort of capture that kind of, you know some of that same kind of experience, even with digital, to say, well, yeah, let's limit ourselves to what we could do in a day, or what we want to photograph. Anyway, sorry, I'm just going on.
No, that's fine. But you were talking about the X-Half before, and you were encouraged by you tweaking the color palette a little bit. You had done something right with some of the pictures that you had taken, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think the some of those, and I'm just thinking, I don't remember any specific images, but there was I called it a warm quality that I think has a bit of an analog with what we're seeing here. Analog. Um, with what Sternfeld is doing here. There's, I don't know, warm is too strong a word, but
I understand that.
you know what I mean? Just the color palettes kind of suggest an emotional warmth to many of the images. The pictures themselves the subjects are not particularly warm. It's just a wonderful, it's not exactly a conflict. It's like and with, with this large format work, there's so much detail. You can look at those images for as long as you go back and you'll find more. There's some interesting ones. There's a picture of when the space shuttle arrived on top of a 747, which is the way they used to transport them between bases. And I think the image was taken in San Antonio, someplace in Texas.
Yeah. Somebody's in Texas.
And he describes in one of the lectures of, he wanted to set up, and he didn't have, it's an Air Force base. He didn't have permission to really even be there. He just showed up. He happened to be there. And it's all those things like, oh, I should photograph about America. We're talking about, the end of the space program and all these different things. And he wanted to get on, he managed to get into the base and then asked if he could get on the roof of this building. And then there's this funny story about how he had to go up the ranks until he got somebody got up to it. Yeah. Or the colonel who was running the base going, get this guy up there, and he was this long-haired dude, it's like, it's late 70s or whatever. And it's like, get this guy up there. So, and it's people standing on the tarmac next to the shuttle as it's being serviced, or what, still on top of the 747. There's people kind of spread all over the tarmac, and in the foreground,
like they're very small in the distance.
They're very in the distance, and then you see the edge of the roof, which is kind of like a canted bottom third of the frame, and then a kind of not exactly portly gentleman, but a gentleman, doesn't have a lot of hair on his head, in a white t-shirt and gray trousers, and standing there with his thumbs hooked in his belt, looking on at this. And it's just this nice little punctum between him looking at the shuttle and underneath, and this sense of height and openness and all of these things, and the kind of pale gray blue of the sky and the whiteness of his t-shirt and of the shuttle and of the building on the right hand side, and the grayness of the roof of the building and the tarmac, like a kind of a perfection about it, and it's there's nothing I want to see outside that frame. Everything I would want to see in that event is in that picture, even though the bottom third of the frame is just a plain roof, just a plain flat, almost like a concrete thing.
What? Sorry, I want to stick on that picture for a second, because what's interesting to me is he spent a lot of time, at least in one of the videos we're watching, talking about it. And as we spent more time, I was really surprised that someone, I don't know how old he was when he took the picture, but that was going through his mind. Like somehow he, when he heard about the shuttle was going to land and he had to drive there, he drove 3 hours to get there. And he could not have set this picture up. There's nothing in it at all that was set upable, and yet he's doing it as part of this project, and he's still managing to find, like, I'll let people watch the video, because if you're really interested in it, it's nice to hear him talk about it, or hear other people talk about this shot. But you get these very distinct planes. You have the floor, you have the rooftop, which is one big chunk of color.
Mm-hmm.
You have the sky, which is another chunk of color. Then you have this middle ground, and then you have this intersection of the man standing there connecting all three. He's on the roof, his body goes through the middle ground, and his head goes into the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear that that's a very deliberate style that he seems to do. He calls himself a landscapist. I thought that was an interesting phrase, more of a landscape photographer. And so he's approaching these shots as if he was a landscape photographer, with the shooting down upon the scenes. But what's interesting about that picture specifically is, how could he have set that up? It's just like, it's happenstance that he gets on the roof, and he's able to continue his idea of color
Mhm.
and of framing, and it's just something that you came across, and that's what prospects seem like it's full of. It's like these,
Mhm.
he comes across this scene with, what is it, an elephant in the road being like washed
Oh,
down.
yes, yeah.
The elephant looks like it's far in the distance,
Mhm.
right? But there's a sheriff's car in the foreground. It's on a road, and it looks like the something happened to the elephant off of a truck, and
Mhm.
it's far away enough that you can have a hard time seeing it, at least in the book. But again, it's like he manages to continue his concepts of color and framing and stuff like that, and with a bloody elephant
Yeah.
I mean, not a bloody elephant. I mean, you know, a, a damn elephant in the middle of the road
Yeah.
getting washed down. So his pictures are full of these kind of situations that he just comes across. And what I'm having a hard time, well, it's interesting imagining him in this VW driving around the United States with a Guggenheim letter, which is using for, trying to get into spots, coming across these scenes. Like, would that happen to either one of us if you and I were driving around? Would we just happen to come across crazy scenes like this? And I think it doesn't, I don't know if it has anything to do with the time period that he was photographing.
No, but
I mean,
mind, like even this picture with the elephant on the road, he's up. He's like 20 or 30 feet in the air. Like,
right,
how did
right.
he do that? And you imagine he is bringing so much intellect and gravitas to the way he works. Like, these pictures aesthetically pleasing, which many are not. There is a genius to them because the more you think about what you're looking at, the more you realize how much thought had to be put into it before he tripped the shutter. And because it was 2 per day, there would be no more than very likely two of these images to choose from. So
Right.
that makes it all the
If he
more
shot, yeah,
astonishing.
right. And if he was like only doing one shot a day, then therefore he would use both frames up,
Yeah.
both pieces of film in one take. So it the more I look at his work, and the more excited I get about my own prospects, in some way.
Mhm.
I know that he's coming at it from also a very political point of view.
Right.
There's a lot of issues about when he's photographing this during the 70s and 80s, and the I won't go into the storyline about that. You could watch that and hear his own story about that, but there is a lot of like the politics in his pictures are, I think, pretty clear, especially once you hear him talk.
Mhm.
But that idea of, like, I mean, first of all, I think what I'm really struck by is that idea that he got sort of hit on the head by a thunderbolt when he saw that those buildings in Rockaway. And part of me is like, I wonder, I hope that I could find that version of that here for me.
Mhm.
Like, will that moment happen? You know, but he already had an idea in his head, and it just, that cracked it open a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the rest of us can do to sort of push that along or something like that. But I do like the idea how he thinks about his work.
Yeah.
And it's one of those challenges I offer to everybody else. Like, rather than just going around with your camera, like, if you were as deliberate as Sternfeld, like, how would you well, you know what? I'll ask you.
Well, no, it's
'Cause
a
you're here,
complete
so
inspiration. I mean, I have to, and is American Prospect Season even available for sale now? Was there going to be a new?
You'll only find it used if you can find it used, and there's going to be a new version. Oh, what's interesting about his American Prospects is he keeps coming out with new versions of it every so often, and he adds more pictures that are new from the time between the time that the previous edition comes out. So it's almost like a continuing body of work that he's doing. And right now there is no issue. There's nothing available new, although there's a new edition that's supposed to be coming out. I don't know when.
All right.
It's gonna be very expensive. It's gonna be very large, and he's adding a few more pictures to it. I think it's Steidel who's producing
Right.
the book for him.
But I was just about to say, if I had a copy of American Prospects, I mean, we talk about if we Cape is done. certainly not in the same way, but I mean, he is an inspiration. Like, big fan of study. So, what is it? We talk
Yeah.
about these images, like the guy in the space shuttle and the airplane. The house on fire with pumpkin stand. These things that are combination of right place at the right time, and then this whole depth of craft and, in his case, this political spin that he puts on the images. They are. So I think you look at the work and take what you can out of it and do what you can do when it's your turn to walk around with the camera and
Yeah.
be present. Like they say with all the other things in life, be present and be deliberate. I mean, I don't know what else. If I have a hope of improving my goes towards this kind of ilk, then I should put some effort into it and just see where it goes, whatever it becomes. It's inspiring me as we're sitting here talking about it.
Hmm.
I did have in 2017, I started a project called Neighborhoods, and it was one pick named neighborhood within my city, and there's about 200 of them. I live in a neighborhood called, sort of like your Park Slope or your
Yeah. Yeah.
Kensington or
Yeah.
whatever. Same thing. Like we have the Kensington too. I live in a place called Rocky Ridge, and it's a thing. And I'd collected probably about 40 of them, but they were mostly vertical buildingscapes and landscapes, playgrounds,
Hmm.
built facades, individual homes, that sort of thing. And if you were from Calgary and you saw that picture, you could probably guess what it was, like a recognition
Good.
project, right? And it was
Yeah.
fun to
Yeah.
do for a while. And then there was another guy in town here had picked it up, and in terms of aesthetics and kind of an artistic sensibility, he was just kicking the stuffing out of me. So I set the project aside.
Really? Really?
Yeah, it was like the guy Levi. He's like, he wins. He can carry that. So I paused the project. I mean, I've still got 40 of some images. It's an excuse to drive
Hmm.
around too, which is great.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking maybe I should start taking pictures of people in these neighborhoods too. Like, this is my city. I know a fair bit about some parts of the city that I don't go into that I will have to at some point to cover this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's inspiring me. Maybe I should revisit that project and put some humans in the frame and see what I. Yeah,
Hmm.
because it's an interesting time, I think, in history to be taking pictures of folks around here too. So yeah, so that would be, just to be inspired by the guy. I don't know what else I can do.
Yeah. I just want to be clear too. Also, not advocating, copying his work. I don't think like his like me like the style that he does or the stuff his subject matter is something that interests me
Mhm.
entirely. But what interests me is his approach to his own way of taking pictures, and I don't think I don't think I ever thought about it like that. Like, and I'm wondering. I haven't read anything whether he learned that in school or he just came up with it on his own. Like to have that definitive, like this is what I want, and this is how I want to present the country that I'm living in, and I really admire that
Mhm.
and how one can get to that. Like, and it's not saying it's necessary for us to do that to become photographers and do projects and stuff like that, but it does like intrigue me about
Yeah.
like what would I do? Like, what to think about my work like that, or think about. And I'm in this position now that I get to sort of start over again, and like, do I want to do the street style photography? And I don't mind doing that. I kind of like showing this world through my eyes that I cultivated, back east. But what else is there? Like, what else would I want to do? And is it taking pictures of grain elevators and windmills and, cattle or something like that? And
Mhm.
I don't know. That's the problem is like, I don't know. And it's great that he knew, like, he was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And there's so many of these guys who do that, especially if you're schlepping around an 8x10 camera. You
Yeah.
better know what you're doing,
Yeah.
you know? So, like a to be continued kind of thing. But I want to figure it out soon because I'm not a,
Yeah.
I'm getting older here. It's like I want to start doing something. I just don't, I mean, this is not a show about me. I don't want to say that, but I'm, can talk
Yeah,
about
but
it.
I mean,
Just want
it's
to,
how Sternfeld inspire any of us, all of us. So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
lesson.
And again, yeah, and again, it's one of those surprises. Like I'm embarrassed that he wasn't on my radar, and I'm looking at his work, and I can't wait to buy. The next time American Prospects come out, it's going to be a very expensive book, but I'm definitely going to buy it because
Mhm.
it ends up becoming an artifact of the United States or the place that we live in. And it'll be very interesting to see what his current pictures that he adds to it. Yes, he's going to be political, and he's got a bias, and that's fine.
Mhm.
And it'll be interesting to see how he incorporates that into this work that's been going on since the 70s,
That
right?
doesn't. I mean,
Uh,
the political component to his work does not take away at all from.
does
It's
not,
not
no.
preachy. It's not. It's a gentle genius. I could call it that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, he's not telling us what to think
No.
or how to be or something like that. But how anyway, I can go on and on and on. I realize we've been talking about him for a while. I don't know if we've even scratched the surface. There's so much we haven't talked about, like
Other than
his
to
his
encourage our listeners to look him up, do a image search on him. It's like there's a lot going on
yeah.
there.
I mean, before we wrap, the one thing I do want to mention the project, because he was talking about this in one of the videos. The project, what's it called? Where he was visiting the spots where something violent had happened.
Oh, I don't
You
remember.
remember the
I'm
name?
sorry, I've forgotten.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the name of that project, but he goes over and talks about how an event. I won't describe it because it's kind of awful, but how an event happened, and he was with his kid, and the next day he heard about this event happening in, I think it was in New York, and
Mhm.
how he was sort of struggling between wanting to go to the site and see it and not wanting to go, and then ended up starting this project where he's photographing the site where some terrible event happened, and it's without all the evidence of what had happened, and it's just the street where something happened, or the
Right.
the woods where something happened, and there's accompanying text with that. And the the one thing that he talks about a lot is how the text matters in his pictures, how that gives it the context and whatnot. We can put that onto another show at some point when we want to talk about writing and
Mhm.
photography. But the description of that project seems really powerful, because especially when he was saying things like, I didn't want to go but I went, like the struggle
Yeah.
with that. And I resonate with that in some way, especially when after 9/11, and how I had this sort of obsession in some sense of going down and photographing the ruins there. I
But
mean, that
we
was an
had we
extreme
had
event.
yeah, we had Joel Myers too. That was, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he also had Keith
Oh,
Goldstein too.
Keith. Oh,
Keith was
Keith was down there.
photographing. Well, he was photographing the people who were looking at the empty space. He turned the camera on the people who were staring at the sky where the buildings used to be. I
Mm.
think he called the project "Looking On" or "Looking." I can't remember exactly. And if he's listening to this, he can correct us, or I can check it out. But you know, there was this pull to go and see something like an aftermath of something. Now that was the direct aftermath. But when Sternfeld was talking about that, I think he's approaching it in of course, in a much different way, because the pictures have to have the words with it, so you understand what the scene is.
Uh-huh.
But it's just this combination of the words and the pictures. Anyway, I wanted to mention that project too, because I thought that was very powerful, and how he also says that all of these books are connected to each other.
Mm.
So, American Prospects, and then a book that he did about Rome, sort of the outside of Rome and sort of the fall of civilization, and then this book about the places where awful events happened.
Mm.
So I again admire that he's also creating this connection between his work all across. It's not like separate projects; they are separate projects, but there's a definite line, a linear line through them,
Yeah.
and that he's very much aware of it. And he's deciding how to navigate that line, and by using imagery and locations and scenarios and stuff. So It's a lot more in depth. Like this guy is someone like it'd be great to be to be a student,
Yeah.
to be in a classroom with him.
If he shows up in town or whatever, I would definitely go hear him speak.
Yeah. I don't know if he'll ever show up here.
Yes. You don't know that. It's a university town. Write him a letter. Maybe he'll stop by. Maybe he's got another.
Maybe he'll stop by.
But no, it's fascinating.
All right. So I'll put some of these pictures in the show notes, and I will also link up those videos so people can watch them. There's like a couple that I found. I mean, you could probably do a whole search for him and find stuff, but I definitely recommend at least looking up his pictures when you can and seeing them. You have to remember that the 8x10 pictures that he did of American prospects are they're going to be really, really detailed, and so when we're looking at them on a screen, we may not see all that detail because they're not presented in the highest res. But when you see an 8x10, a negative or something that's printed from 8x10, you would be amazed at how much detail is in that. And we're talking about an 8x10 piece of film, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's making a negative, so he's then having to either contact print it or enlarge it. He wasn't shooting. I don't think he was shooting chromes when he was doing the 8x10 stuff.
I don't remember his film choice.
No, I don't remember, but I don't think it was a chrome film. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Anyway, all right, we've given our time tonight. We should wrap, I think. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. First, we should have a little note of celebration, though, too, because we hit a milestone.
Oh, right. I forgot.
What is that milestone?
The milestone is we reached 200,000 downloads. Right? Was that it?
Yeah.
Yay!
Golf clap.
200,000 downloads. Yes. Here's to the next 200,000.
Exactly.
Yes. I can't believe that. If I wanted to work out like the average amount of hours, but that's all the shows. That's all the shows. So yes, hooray to us.
Very cool.
And very cool. Yeah. So thank you everybody for downloading and listening to us. I'm incredibly happy that there are a bunch of people who like listening to us talk, and inevitably I will hear from people when we get messages that we like. It's like sitting around a coffee table with us, which is kind of how I think I've always wanted the show to be. So
cool.
Or a bar or whatever our choice of beverages at the time.
Our choice of venue and beverage. Exactly.
Beverage, yes. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Yeah. And thank you, Ward. Thanks for helping making that happen.
I'm happy and honored to be part of it. So that's very cool.
Yeah. So anyway, where's the world finding you these days?
You can find me on the internet, via Twitter and Blue Sky, on W. Rosin Photo. I'm on Instagram at Ward Rosin Fine Art. That's always my first place where I post things, and my stream of consciousness goes up there. Facebook, I'm at Ward Rosin Photo, and my website rosin.ca, rosin.ca. What about you, Antonio? Where can we find you?
Yeah. So Blue Sky, AM Rosario, Instagram, AM Rosario Photo with a PH. Not that FOTO stuff. My website, which one of my projects is to redo that. Like I said, I'm probably going to move it to Squarespace. amrosario.com. But yeah, look at me, and I put a lot of stuff on my Facebook page. So it's Rosario Photo. And hey, we've sort of upped our Substack ante these days, where you've seen if you subscribe to us, you've seen a few new stories come out, which I'm really having fun doing. Substack is a really nice place, I think, for the kind of stuff we want to talk about. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I've written 2 articles. There's another one that's coming up soon. After you just posted yours here in the last week, so we'll let that steep for a while and let the people appreciate it, and it's very good. And so I'm into the fun of it now. So keep me motivated.
It's nice to flex our writing muscles a little bit too, and connect that with our photography. So please, we're like right at this moment, we're 3 people shy of 300 subscribers to Substack. So tell your friends, subscribe. Let's get 3 more people here. So we're at streetshots.substack.com. And hey, if you want to support what we're doing, you can actually pledge on Substack. We haven't done a paywall there yet, but we had some people pledge. Like if we fired up a paywall, people would give us a few bucks a month. But if you want to do like a one-time shot and help support the show, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. I need to figure out if I can change that name to Street Shots, but right now it's Antonio Rosario. So yeah,
Cool.
so yeah, and I got my computer set up, and I've got my my old microphone set up, and I feel
Yay.
like I'm back into the old podcasting thing. Yeah. So I like talking into this mic. It makes me feel like I'm working on radio
It's
or
legit.
something like that.
Yeah.
It is legit. It's a Shure on the side.
It's a
of it.
Shure.
Kind of wire sticking
That's
out of
right.
it. It's a Shure.
From those kindly
So anyway,
people in
thanks.
Australia. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll be back in August, I think, right?
Yeah.
We should be.
Yeah. Middle of August.
Come up, middle of August, yeah. Well, hopefully we won't be all sweating. So anyway, Ward, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure as always.
And everybody, we will see you in a couple of weeks. And thanks for joining us tonight. And take care of yourselves.
All right. Good night.